For the green onion, we're going to cut off the roots and then identify the gradient where it transitions from white to green. Cutting in the center of this, we will slice our green onion and place into separate containers. I find it helpful to have my veg that needs more cooking to be in the same container, and veg that requires less on its own separate container. A helpful step is ensuring that all of your veg is a similar size, or at the very least that they will cook evenly. They don't have to be exact. Fried rice is fairly forgiving in this sense, and you can always trust your gut for what if your ingredients will need more cooking. In this mix especially, the carrots are really the only veg that needs to reach softness. For the tofu, I'm going to cut slits in the packaging and then place it in my sink to drain while I prep my flavoring liquid. A combination of soy sauce, sesame oil, rice vinegar, and fish sauce will allow for a strong flavor to be incorporated, especially since working with tofu it will not bring much flavor on its own. Feel free to taste your flavoring liquid and adjust to your personal preference. Just note that I dilute my liquid at the end to ensure I have plenty of liquid to cover my tofu in. For tofu cooking in general, I found it helpful to treat it more like a sponge than a protein, especially with these large cuts. A surefire way to ensure proper flavor to the core of the tofu is to ensure it has adequate time to soak and cook within its flavored liquid. Here I've opted to make a flavoring liquid on the side for my rice and tofu. This allows me to keep the heat in the pan relatively high and not boil or braise the tofu separately. I once again I do add too much liquid at once, as you will see in the cooking portion. However, at that point I'd already realized the rice had broken up, which I will explain later. If you wish to maintain a prettier fried rice, you would add less liquid at a time to make sure the pan stays hot. Eggs are mandatory in an egg fried rice. However, it doesn't really add much in terms of like flavor or substance. Eggs can be a good source of protein and nutrients, but ultimately they're not necessary. Since your fried rice at home can be any kind you'd like, making a strict egg fried rice doesn't have to be your vision. The kind made today is just a variation playing on Thai flavors. And if you choose to add an egg, having a seasoned scrambled mix on the side, ready to place in the pan, will make it easier to cook when the time is necessary. For the tofu, I'm going to leave it in large cubes so they have some shape and structure. I find that for this higher heat, kind of stir-frying, sauteing application, the tofu can break apart quite a bit, especially when not pre-treated, as in you pre-boil them or you fry them on their own first. And my crowding of the pan later in the video doesn't aid their structure either. It does ultimately lead to them falling apart quite a little bit, but I'm not too worried here. Ultimately, this fried rice is going to be about flavor, and I'm not serving this in the restaurant. It's just a weekend meal for me and my partner. Flavor is the ultimate priority here, and visuals are pretty low on the place. So, now that we have our mise en place ready, we have our raw veg, our veg that needs to be warmed up, rice, tofu, and a flavoring liquid, along with our egg. We're ready to start. The actual process here is straightforward and also highly modifiable, so the approach I take here is honestly the laziest possible approach for cooking them all in the same pan with no removing of any ingredients. I put my raw veg first into my hot pan and cook them until they're softer and about a couple minutes shy of ready. Keep in mind I burned my white green onion parts achieving this, but that's ultimately fine. You can kind of treat it like caramelized onion almost, since the white parts do kind of have that flavor. Not so much the soft, more delicate floral vegetal flavors of the traditional green onion or chive. Then I add my rice and my tofu and a good splash of my liquid so they can begin to melt together in flavor and get to know each other. After a bit more of the liquid, I finish with my veg that needs to be warmed up and my egg. Now, ultimately, as you'll see, visually it's a little rough, but its flavor is still incredible. And ultimately, it will be up to you what you want to prioritize and how much time you wish to execute a fried rice. Feel free to look up recipes as well, as there are many different tips on removing veg in cook orders or inspirations for different styles. Now, general tips for fried rice, you want to cook the batch the day before you use it. Here, this batch of rice was made literally just right before it, and I placed it on a sheet tray to try to dry it out as much as possible. But ultimately, if you can, try to cook a batch of rice the day before and leave it in the fridge. That way the rice can dry out mildly and it won't break up nearly as much as you see today. It'll also absorb liquid and just hold its structure a lot better. You also want to avoid using long grain rice if you can, as it would also have the same issue of breaking apart. For fried rice, it is absolutely possible to cook it on an electric stovetop. There's just a couple of things you have to keep in mind. For a big batch like this especially, the biggest thing we're worried about is crowding the pan, which is essentially just putting so much in the pan at once. We completely lower the temperature inside the pan, and it's no longer sauteing. It is now just boiling our veg, which is what leads to sticking as well. While it stays hot, you'll see it won't stick at all. The carrots and the white green onions at the start did not stick. But for once I had my rice and my tofu, I added far too much at once, and it lost all of its heat, and therefore it stuck and began to break apart. Now keep in mind, ultimately, most of this just affects the visuals. So if you see this, don't be remiss. It can still taste incredible, especially if you taste for salt throughout it and towards the end. It's just that, you know, it might be a little visually unappealing. But at the end of the day, cooking, and fried rice especially, is about flavor. So I hope you enjoy a delicious, nutritious, veggie Thai style fried rice. It's not meant to be authentic by any means, but just a play on the flavors. You can also use shrimp as a protein as well. It's pretty great. It's also pretty neutral. And a classic Thai dipping sauce, prick dumpla, is fish sauce with like Thai bird chilies. Now, if you're not a fan of spicy flavors, by all means don't have it, but it can be pretty nice to have on the side of this fried rice. Enjoy.